Welcome to
Hi, I'm
PSCZ
talking.
Learning.
Of course. How is everyone? We haven't seen you in a while due to obvious reasons, and we're glad to be back and talking business with you once again. So, here we go. We're going to start, and we're going to have some fun with standards. You know, I went through the drive-through the other day with Jack, and I thought, do you have any standards? If you do, they're not obvious. Standards of service, standards of conversation, standard of dress code, standard of making eye contact and creating a connection with somebody. And it was really difficult, and it was funny because I was on the phone with Janet, and she said, "What was that?" She even heard it.
Really?
She didn't even witness it live, but she heard it. Just, what was that? I mean, do you think there's any kindness in that window? And you know, Jack's there. Get the nuggets. Get the nuggets. And so, if it's obvious to one, it's probably very obvious to all. And this is what we're talking about today. What are your standards? Your standards as an owner. What are you known for? And that's the biggest thing that you want to happen when you hear your staff talking about you, is I hope they're talking about your standards of excellence. What it's like working for you and what your standards are. And if people can't answer that, that means you don't have great standards in place, right?
Yeah, and you know, I've been thinking about this word or classification, standards, because in some ways, a standard in related to business is almost an aspiration. It's what you aspire to. It's
No, I think it's basic standards. I want it to be no less than this.
so that it's a non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Well, so that's where it gets.
Tricky and dicey.
Yeah, it's one or the other. And then I sat back and I said, you know, it really is. It's the owner's truths. It's what's true for you as an owner, and as the owner of the business, you have every right to have your truths and your standards.
And usually, when there's chaos, we just got off a phone call with an owner earlier, and I said, I bet you have drama attached to this, because what happens is, oh, and I love the way that's showing up and covering up some COVID pounds. Thank you for that, right there in the screen, Antonio. But what I want to talk about is she didn't have standards of compensation. She had a lot of different things, and as a result, it was creating side conversations in her business. So what we're trying to tell you right now is when you have standards in place, it lessens the drama because the expectation is clear. Everyone's on the same page. It's not one way for one way for the other or another. This is our standards of performance and excellence, and this is what we expect. And when I said to her, because your compensation isn't specific and the same, you have drama on this topic. And she said, yes, I do. And I said, that's why. Mm-hmm. So when we said to her, we recommend you to be at 1% for everyone, regardless, and the product deduction to be the same for everyone, regardless, but allow them to earn their increases in pricing, that be the differentiator, not the commission. And so when we were talking to her about it, I could hear her, even through the phone, understanding that she created some of that. And you know what? What sucks about it, bad word, sucks, sorry, but what sucks about it is she was doing it to help create happy employees, thinking she was doing something kind and nice, and what it did is came back and became drama in her business. That's what's really bad about that. We've done it. We certainly have done it.
Yes.
It's never your intention to create, like, we did this system and we put this in place to create drama at PSC. That would never be what we would think would happen, right? If we avoid that at all costs. So when it does happen, it just means that the system or the service or the sameness needs to be tweaked a little bit. Mm-hmm. Good. So what's the definition?
So definition, a level or quality of attainment.
Good. This is the minimum we're going to accept from ourselves. This is the quality of our work. This is what we want it to look like. And it can be in different areas, which we're going to go through now.
I'm going to push you on this one today, Tara.
Good, go.
because I think about standard, it says a level or quality of attainment, and then you hear things like the gold standard or the platinum standard, and it's like, okay, what is it? Is it the minimum, or is it in fact that owner's,
So if I say high-touch service, what's the minimum of high-touch service?
but is a standard the minimum, or is it what we do?
Well, I'm sorry, but you can reach for it, but how are you protecting it?
So then it is aspirational.
No, not really. It's how we behave here.
Did you miss us talking back and
Yes.
forth like
Did
this?
you miss the arguing and the conflict to fight for what we believe in? So let's go to the next one because we're going to go places with this. Leadership. I put this slide in. We've used it before, and I love it. Hope is not a strategy. Hope they get it. Hope they understand my standards. Hope they understand what I expect in the wash house. Hope they understand what dress code is. Hope. No, no, no. What are our standards? And you can't wish it to be true. You have to work it to be true by helping people understand what your expectations are. It's intentions versus execution, or intentions in combination with execution.
Mhm.
And just because they know it, or just because you know it, doesn't mean that you're equating that to leadership. When you're frustrated, usually you're having those leadership conversations or your disappointment in performance by yourself or with maybe another unqualified employee that doesn't have the ears that should be listening to it. If you've got weaknesses, it's because your staff isn't carrying the salon flag.
And just a current conversation that came up when we gathered our consultants for the first time since the COVID shutdown, and we were all in one room, and they said, you know what, the salons who had high standards of sanitation have had no problems.
Oh, of course. They
What-
only had to tweak their system.
whatsoever. It's the ones who didn't who are having.
I didn't have a mic on this whole time. I did not have a mic on.
You know what? You're a rookie.
I am. You got to train me. Start from the beginning, Antonio. Start from the beginning. Okay.
No, we're not. So anyway,
No, meaning in life.
the reality of it is that many of you had chosen standards prior to COVID happening that served you very, very well. As standards are what serves you when the unexpected takes place. It brings us back to where we need to be, or it allows us to perform normally when other people are scrambling. What really is your standard? Intentions versus what we execute. Those who are executing well are still executing well. And those who weren't are some of the stories that we hear that are out there. So this is particularly timely. And as Terry says, now that you'll hear her, knowledge does not equate to leadership.
Well, and just remember, just because you know it doesn't mean that you're leading it. Just because you know your standards doesn't mean it's being recognized and honored by your staff. So when you look at make the standards known and owned by the entire team. They've got to own it. They have to say, we own this. This is who we are here. Not, she's nuts and she says it, but she doesn't expect it or follow up or really mandate that we do it. No. It must be understood by the team. And you know what? When you have standards of excellence in place like that and you bring new people in, you know what the beauty of that is they help train your new people because everyone is living by those standards and they can execute. It's powerful, really powerful.
I think that standards are expectations on steroids because it's not an expectation that we're willing to just let go if it doesn't happen. It's one that has to happen. And what I've learned about expectations is that the only way to make sure that you get what you expect is to be sure that you inspect your team. And I'll be inspecting you after this for not wearing your microphone. So I'll inspect to make sure you get what you expect. That's very, very important.
Well,
otherwise, the standard just becomes a hope or a wish.
When you're walking around, even just looking at your business and checking, I've talked about this. When you get out of the car, you're inspecting. When you walk in the door, you're inspecting. You're feeling, oh, sorry, I swallowed one. excuse me, you're feeling getting a temperature read on your business visually, in the sound, in the scent, in all of the senses are being challenged. And also, are they on alert? In a good way, when a guest walks in and says, wow, it smells so good in here. Or, wow, the energy in here is amazing. Oh, what great music you're playing today. Gosh, the place looks so clean and organized. When your customers are saying that to you, you're hitting the mark. You're hitting the mark on the standards that you're setting forth. And celebrate those. Don't go, yeah. Just say, we really work hard on it, or we work hard at it for you, our guest, right? Make sure you acknowledge it, not just nod and be polite.
And you know what I think is interesting sometimes? That when all of us, salon owners, business owners, our staff, we check standards when we're going into other people's business. We check standards when we're going to the grocery store, when we're going to a restaurant, when we're picking up, I'll give you an example. I picked up a to-go order the other day from a place that I had just...
All we do is eat. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can tell. For me, anyway. From a place that I'd had a delivery from the day before.
Okay.
So I paid for delivery. And wouldn't you think the packaging of that order would be the same? I mean, if they're saying that we put the things into the bag and we seal the bag for your safety, wouldn't you seal the bag for my safety when I'm curbside? If that's your way, this guy's in the parking lot, so it doesn't matter.
There's no safety.
It either matters or it doesn't.
Yes.
So the point is that we are looking at other businesses and checking out their standards. We notice if the parking lot, there's a business in town, and it's the Home Depot and McDonald's area in Shorewood. Their parking lot is terrible. Terrible. I can't believe that they haven't resurfaced.
And how can they let it be like that?
And so to me, that says that must be okay with somebody. Obviously it is. So what are their standards for guest satisfaction? They were the same people we talked about that weren't controlling who came, how many people were in their store back when we were all counting that.
And this kind of goes back to your landlord relationship. He hates me. I don't you think? I'm a pebble in his shoe a little bit.
Sincerely dislikes.
Okay, thank you. So anyway, but I'm talking to him about if you're going to do the groundskeeping, meaning you're doing the mowing, you better be doing the weeding, and you better make sure you have this in place and this in place. And when I walk in, I want these things done. We're doing our part to honor your property. You do your part to honor us as a tenant. And that is big. I'm not going to ever say it's okay that the parking lot doesn't look fresh and good here, right? And I want him to go, I know you're going to ask about the parking lot. Yes, because it's on our list. So you fight for your standards, not to be right because it's the right thing, not to be right because it's the right thing. And your guests deserve for you to rent or lease or whatever and be in a business partnership with a landlord that cares about your guests for you, right? Okay, so let's talk about standards. First of all, when you think about, you could say, I just put these topics in to say, gosh, I don't know what my standards are. Okay, what are your requirements, or what are your specifications, or what are your guidelines? What's your dialogue have to be like? What are your methods of service? This kind of gives you a general idea where to start. I can't write your standards, but what I can do is say, okay, if you were to get lost and go have a cup of coffee by yourself somewhere and say, what do I require from my team? What do I require from them? And then what are the specs I want in place? Whether the specifications could be dress code, punctuality, our guidelines of this is what we're going to do. You can think through and what dialogue you want to be said in the business. I always say at PSC, may I place you on a brief hold, or my pleasure, or I'll extend your call. Those weren't done because someone just thought of them. We heard it from another company and said, that felt great.
Absolutely.
And we put it in. Now, it wasn't an option for everyone to embrace it or take it on as part of their dialogue. So that becomes our standards.
I'll tell you something that happened this week. I had noticed it earlier, but I chose to comment on it this time. I was going through Starbucks in Lombard. It might even be Downers Grove at that point. And you know, I'm a Starbucks fan.
Yes, he is.
And the reality is that when you're there enough, you notice inconsistencies.
Well, your
Right?
expectations. You have standards now
I
as a
have
customer.
standards. I do.
Yes.
And so here's what was interesting about Downers Grove, and then I'll also tell you about another thing that's the most inconsistent at Starbucks. So Downers Grove, they took it upon themselves, apparently, because I asked them, I said, did the way you serve beverages and food, did that come from Starbucks corporate, or did you decide to do this? And I think originally she probably thought she was in a little bit of trouble or something because she was hesitant to answer. I said, I just want to know, is it something that Starbucks instructed you to do? And she said, yeah, I think it came down from corporate, but it's just the way we do it. And I said, well, I've noticed, I go to a lot of Starbucks around the Chicago area, and I've never had any other Starbucks serve beverage and food the way you do. And I want you to know as a customer, I really appreciate it. Right? So what do? They've got a coffee mug that they set the beverage in.
Love it.
And then they offer it out to you to take it yourself out of the mug.
Nice.
And then they have a small basket that they place the individual bags of food in, and they hold the basket out for you to take it yourself. So it doesn't have that one last handling.
So if that came
before
from
it went up.
corporate, now see, here's the franchisee in me, or the franchisor. Franchisor said, listen, we're helping you make an impression on your customers. This is a new thing we want you to put in place. And what did some of the franchisees say?
They don't know what they're doing. We can't do it that way. We have too many people drive through
We have too many
here.
people, and it's just going to take up more time. Versus, wow, we have an opportunity to take one extra second to put it in the basket and push it out, or put it in the cup and hand it to the guest. But guess what? We're not going to do it. That's when people jerk around with the standards.
Yeah, and it has a residual cost.
Absolutely does.
That's the thing. Your standards either have a residual benefit or a residual cost. And sometimes to get a benefit, you do have an additional cost. We were very much a part of that in a sustainability conversation we had earlier this week. Choosing to be sustainable is an additional cost.
Well, and it's also what I was blown away by in the messages is if you look about companies that have chose to make sustainability a core value of their organization and make their decision making all entwined in sustainability, does it save you money? No. Does it save you time? No. Does it make life easier? No. And so, wow, how many people would want to dive into that?
Right.
And so when I just had a whole new, even a higher respect for Davines when they made that pledge.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that?
And now you're seeing more and more and more companies who have chosen sustainability as a significant platform going forward.
As they should.
Yeah, as everyone should. And that's what everyone wants. I mean, it's...
Well, and can I tell you? Here's what I was thinking about. Just great example and great lead in from Steve. You know, when sustainability comes up, you're like, oh God, I mean, yeah, okay. Would we have ever, if they would have said, you have to take these safety precautions in your business before COVID, would we have done it? No?
No. Probably not.
Probably not.
We don't know that for sure.
But, well, my point is when you're forced to do something, you find the time, you find the resources, and you find a way.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not forced to do something, you sometimes just put them off, even if it's the right thing to do. And that's what makes me crazy. If it's the right thing to do, let's all get together, think as a team, do that yes and mentality, and figure out a way to do it versus just put it off. And hey, we're guilty of it too. Great idea, and a year later it's not implemented yet. Why? What's going on? So,
You know, and I guess I want to say, relative to our profession, to the beauty industry, to the barber shops, when's the last time a standard of yours changed a standard of the industry's? because, and it doesn't have to be the industry worldwide. It can be the industry in your town.
Yes, industry in your town. Like this is what they're doing now, or this is what they're doing to beards now, or this is the kind of facial they're doing in their salon, not as an option, as part of their service, right?
I mean, the examples I would give you come from a Robert Croming salon, and the wash house and the color bar.
Change the industry.
Those were two things, and I think that I'm sure it changed San Diego and Las Vegas long before it changed the rest of the United States. But you know what? That's a consideration of any salon owner opening a new salon or remodeling an existing salon.
Am I going to make room for an enclosed wash house experience? And
Absolutely.
am I going to feature front and center our dispensary?
I mean, let's look at the standards. There's standards outside our business. You know, I think of when FedEx came into play, and their whole thing was when it absolutely,
Has to get
positively has to get there overnight. They were the ones that made overnight a standard. Now, there's other people offering it, but there's also other people not. And it's an interesting path because some have chosen not to and focus on price. If you don't need it overnight, why pay for overnight? If you need it in 3 days, 4 days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, just whenever it decides to show up.
You know, it's funny. I love this part of at PSC when we get in this discussion about freight because it's a cost of business. And our customers will say, you know, I don't have to get it tomorrow. Can you lessen the price if I get it in 2 or 3 days? And unfortunately, our commitment is whatever goes out today. It's not going to lessen the price of our
Right.
shipping. But it's funny how they'll say, I really don't need it yet.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, the years of walking into salon after salon after salon, if people didn't need it right away, there wouldn't be stores.
That's true. That's true. Open up the box. So let's do service standards first. We're going to break these down in things that you've already heard before, but our service standards are our guest relations. I'm still confused, and I still question this connection or lack of in salons. Multiple relations, not just with one person, with
So
as
multiple
many
relationships within the business.
Yes. And that's big. The front desk shouldn't feel like a stranger to the guest or not as important to the guest. It's how much you utilize your soldiers. And I think that's big. There is a big team here, not just you. There's a big team here. And we all want to make sure that we are here to serve you. Now, professional pass-off and professional introductions, that's key. I can't imagine being in a room with someone, one of my teammates, or if I walked in and they not introduce me right away and me give them the same courtesy if they walk in a room and I'm with someone. I think it's really important. And I think when you introduce someone, you're saying, I'm proud to introduce. You don't introduce someone you're not proud of.
Well, there's also, and we say this sometimes in our classes relative to working with cleansing technicians.
Yes.
If someone else is doing your shampoo, when you introduce someone, you bring dignity to them as a person and the position they hold in the salon. To not introduce them is passing up that opportunity, and really, I think it takes away from their feeling of being a member of your team.
And don't introduce someone with more heightened excitement than you do someone else. Maybe they're a little bit of an introvert and you don't know them that well yet. Bring them out of their shell. And a lot of times just creating connection with them or introducing. Today we had a young lady go through orientation that's joining our shipping and receiving department. And they said, we've got a new employee going through orientation. I walked right back there. I said, Ashley, let me spend a few minutes with you and get to know you a little bit. And when we had a nice chat, and I bet when she goes home, what do you think she's going to say?
They're really nice there.
They're really nice there, and I had time with one of the owners too. And it's creating that helps them want to fit. No one likes their first day. Everyone hates it. And if I made that time for her, whether it was 10 or 15 minutes, it might have been at the most, makes her first day easier and that she has more confidence walking in the door, great. That's exactly what I want to accomplish, right?
And where do you get things like that? You know, the first day experience has become a huge part of the HR world. And
We call it onboarding now, yeah?
yeah, and so when you look at that, where would you get ideas on that? There's a book called The Power of Moments, and I would recommend it just for that chapter, or if you can get it online, just for that chapter. I think the chapter was your first day on the job like this, and it gives you great information.
And no one likes being new. Nobody.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do and how to do it and where to do it at. So for us to create that, especially in a service business, I mean, remember, we still have people that walk in the door and not say good morning to their fellow teammates. That's not good. And you need to say, we need to get better at this. You know, the only place I haven't been yet today is the warehouse. And I'll get out there and spend some time with them after we record, just to check in on them, feel the energy or lack of. It's a short staff today because of people off. And how are they doing? And we've got big things coming next week and shipping and receiving. And so my job is to check in and feel and do a temperature read of the staff. Sometimes we as owners are so busy, we forget to look in the eyes of our teams. And that's really important, really important.
I always think back to what Michael Mazzy from New Best in Manhasset, New York, always said to me when I would have some private conversation with him. He said, you know, and this is a huge salon, every team member, it's mandatory that they come in and, you know, we do the New York kiss on either cheek.
The Italian.
The Italian, I look in their eyes at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. No one leaves without that. And he said, that's really my best form of management, the best thing that I do, because I know, I can tell when someone's not happy. I can tell when it's salon related, or they come in that way in the morning from whatever happened at home or whatever's going on in their personal lives. And he says, you know, we are in a relationship business.
Exactly.
And,
Standard.
Yeah, it's a standard of his.
And we witnessed it.
Yeah.
Right? We witnessed them line up.
Yeah.
The next thing is when you're looking at what are your standards for the steps of the service? And I put 1 through 8 on there because I don't know what your steps are. And don't be generic with this. What do you want every guest to enjoy in your business? These things. And this is what we want their flow to look like and feel like when they walk through our business. How we do it here. I don't care where they do it other places. This is how we do it here. These are service specialties, and I gave an example of a signature cleanse or a signature shampoo. And then there can be house specialties. We're known for this, for our creative color design. And the timing of our services is also a service standard. This is how long we take. And you know, COVID changed some things, and we're coming back in a different way, but your steps of the service to connect with your guests are probably the same. So those are just service standards. Let's go into system standards. The next one is referring to, here's our system standards. This is how we use the computer. This is the team schedule. This is how we think with it. It shows us, I forgot to put on here, our performances. It's showing our performances to date. It's also showing our performances of what's scheduled out in the future. The pricing of add-on services. This is our system for additional color or other things. Our product usage. This is how much. This is how we protect our cost of goods at the back bar. And at our color bar. And these are our hours of operation. This is when we accept guests. Our last guest at this time. And that's a part that's service, but really it's a system standard. When someone says, we'll take our last haircut 45 minutes before we close and our last color service an hour and a half before we close. That's a system, right? Mm-hmm. So when you take a look at it, besides performance standards, this is the system and this is how we use it, right?
Yeah.
Good? You're going to find that the longest list on this is our team standards. Because where our culture gets robbed, it's not with the services we offer, and it's not with the systems that we offer. It's our group of people and the dynamics they create together. That's what's big. Whether you have a huge ego on staff that robs you from wanting to lead, or you have a big ego on staff that everyone says, I can never get there, so why do I even try? There's things that can happen. Or you've got a sour-faced person on staff that you've allowed. Now you've got some anxiety from your team. But look at the team standards that you have to be very straightforward with. Dress code, of course, punctuality and attendance, conversations that are acceptable in our business, and when it gets off color or when it gets a little questionable, as if that conversation would be acceptable in my business. Team relations with every department, career path, knowing that this is what you need to do and perform to move up another level, your performance standards, your service standards, your education commitment. Some of your people still fight coming to your education or coming to a staff meeting. They still fight it even though that's part of your culture. I always equate that, especially now. I just got done watching, what's it called, Training Camp.
Oh, did you watch Training Camp?
For
Oh, you watched it. I'm sorry. You didn't watch it from the book Training Camp. You
I
watched
watched
Training Camp on HBO or on
football training camps. And my goodness, these are professional athletes, but they're held to a very high standard. You better be at the meetings, you better know your plays, you better be on time, you better make weight, you better be in the conditioning room. It's not an option. But we still have people, and can I tell you, what has happened with social media and what has happened in life right now, the stories that people want to carry around and dump on their leadership is mind-boggling to me. I can't even imagine 30 years ago and going into my boss and say, now look, I have a dentist appointment and I don't have a car, and when I get to the car and I don't have oh my God, my boss would have said, are you going to be here or not? Shut up. I mean, he wouldn't have listened for a second. Now they dump all their stories on their owners and run. And now it becomes your problem, even though their job is to be at work, you're now having to clean up and carry all their stories around. I said to a leader I was talking to recently, I said, listen, you look exhausted. One of the reasons is you're carrying everybody's stories around. Get rid of the stories. Just say, what can I expect from you? Thank you so much. Move ahead. We still love people, but I'm not qualified to carry every story around. My God, you go lay in the street in 2 seconds. Stop the stories. They're posting their stories on social media. They're posting their stories with their friends. They're doing their private chats. They're coming in and telling their teammates. Okay, it's high for everyone right now, and I know the world's out of sync, but we also have a job to do. Can you imagine an astronaut going up in the air and say, okay, we're taking off tomorrow? Well, listen, I have to tell you. NASA would say, well, okay, you're not flying anymore. What's wrong with you? I'm exaggerating the topic, but there's places where excuses aren't welcome. It's get it done. And if they know all they have to do is tell you a story and they don't have to be at work. Chrissy told me a funny thing last night at the table. Were you there?
I don't know what you're going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in my own head. But a teacher's aide, were you there?
Yes,
okay.
I was there.
I'm not using any names. A teacher's aide called off work, and someone found out by accident that she was actually having a garage sale. Well,
the fact is, she didn't call in and wasn't there, but was having a garage sale.
she called in sick, but she's having a garage sale. So now, because it's a story, now here we go, here come the stories. Now this teacher wants friends to go over and take pictures and proof of the garage sale. Oh my God, we have too much time on our hands. We just want truth. We don't need stories. Just be there for each other, right? That's like when people were sick, they'd call it, like they think they have to sound sicker than they are. If you're sick, you're sick. You don't have to sound more sick, right?
Evident. There's two things on this list that I want to call particular attention to for the time we're in right now. One is the education commitment. education is very much changing.
I don't like it.
And
But I like it, but I don't like it.
there's good and there's bad, but it's just now going to be another way to get your education, another way to deliver it. It'll never take the place of face-to-face, hands-on learning.
Dedicated time away, just
Yeah,
no
and
distractions.
there's so many
Yeah.
things that work about off-site education, and so many things that work about on-site education, and so many things that will work about video education,
Yes.
virtual education. But we can't just ride with it. If you have standards, what are your standards for education?
What do you want them to complete now?
How do you teach them to consume virtual education? You know, I think that's one of the things. Most of us have experience with kids that are doing e-learning.
Oh, gosh.
Some of the biggest problems with e-learning is that the school districts, in my opinion, didn't teach the teachers how to facilitate e-learning, and they didn't teach the kids. They didn't teach the attendees how to consume e-learning. And so everybody's doing the best they can, at the same time in their hearts knowing they're not delivering the best education.
Well, and it's hard for the teachers, it's hard for the children, it's hard for the parents, it's hard for everybody.
So let's back up to the standard. What is going to be your salon's or your business's standard on virtual trainings?
And
How are we going to consume it? What are you going to require?
how do you know they actually did it?
Yeah, and I think back to the amount of people that come into PSC in a year's time for training. Those training hours, you know, the number of hours we offer training times the number of people that took it. Where is our industry? Where's our profession being nurtured right now? There's enough about 2020
Well, our
that's
biggest-
really eating at people. How are we handling feeding them, putting information back in and building them back up?
Well, my biggest worry is, it's like, who wants to put pants on now? I mean, nothing fits me. And who wants to wear trousers, or who wants to get dressed from the waist down when you're really...
I prefer it.
Thank you, good,
Thank
good for you. But here's the point. You can get, that can become your new normal. I mean, you could have been an education fanatic, and then all of a sudden, not doing it, and you filled it with something. You did fill that time with something. Just like someone who used to run and then they don't run anymore. Well, they filled it with something. And it could have been sleep, or it could have been something different, but they filled it. How do we get this education to be at the top of our voice again? Because it does separate the crowd.
The other one I wanted to draw attention to is culture commitment. Because right now, with the protocols that have to be in place, it feels different in a salon, even if you're at your best. So how do we make that different, still say a personal touch, still say we love you and care about you, still say this is our salon in the same way we've always been, and we're doing everything we can to have this still feel like a salon experience, not a trip to the hospital.
Well, and you know what? You know what's really nice about? Find the companies that have really embraced this. And Chick-fil-A's done a great job. I mean, if you look at their ads about how do you do this during a trying time, or you look at a commercial that says this at the top of their voice, think about how you can add that into your social media too. But also, social media could be the way you want to be perceived, and then they come into your business and you're actually delivering something entirely different. Be careful with that.
If you think that this time of 2020 has stolen your culture,
Get it back.
get it back, don't give up, find a way. Right? Find a way where there is no way. That's, I hate to say it, but it's so important because culture is what your people joined. If they feel the culture in your business is gone, that they probably will be too at some point. We just don't know when. So let's make sure that we go back and get it and build a wall around it.
You're right. The community commitment, what are you doing?
Sorry.
That's all right. And when you think about the community involvement, are you still, I mean, I know COVID has limited us, And I mean, I don't even know if Halloween's going to happen this year, right? And we were talking with our family this morning. You know, we don't know about Christmas or Thanksgiving, but what can we do? What can we do to be involved in our community still?
Terry, the thing that we discussed at our gathering for month end was there's never been a more important time or a better time to involve your community in your holiday sales. Fourth quarter's busy. We're still going to have holiday sales. People aren't traveling. They're doing more staycation stuff. Their world has been turned upside down, but we still have luxury hair care.
And that's not frivolous. I mean, people really want.
It's not. People want it, and it's that self-care that everybody talks about.
Well, and maybe you go to the Chamber of Commerce and you say, can we do a candlelight walk for small business? Can we open up and have us feature small business in a not doing hair, but open house that people can just walk, and you've got your Christmas specials. Get involved and get the community and make some noise with each other.
And focus on the small businesses in your community and support each other.
Yes, that's what I meant by the candlelight
Yeah, I mean,
walk.
but I mean support also with what you're selling and what you're offering the consumer, so that when they go to the great haberdashery, they see a sign in there that talks about your salon. When they go into a fine dress shop, a local, one-off, individual entrepreneur.
Good.
When they go to a restaurant, how do we cross market?
Well, and it would be everyone that's in that open house night is we could do things with each other and to support that, and maybe have a list of all the salons that chose to all the businesses that chose to participate that evening. And we could even say, and a percentage of our proceeds from this evening are going to blah, blah, blah for the community.
So my goal would be that if we're selling a package that retails at $90, that we're giving them not only the package, but I would try and get at least $90 worth of other small business goods or discounts, coupons, services to add to that. So that, again, we're members of a community of independent businesses that are all trying to find a new way, trying to maintain our cultures and grow.
Good. So let's go to the facility standards. This is another thing that's huge. I mean, when Steve made the comment earlier, and I thought it was so profound, the businesses that already had great sanitation standards in place, this was not difficult for them to go through COVID and implement PPE and PPE steps of the service to help. But if you had to start over, dear God, I mean, it was a big event for you. So when we look at the facility standards, how is the current design working for us? What is our standards on being Dutch clean? Organizational and functionality, attention to detail, and everything has its place. I don't know what it's like to work in your business. Ask your staff, what's it like to work in here? Is everything in the right place? Do we have things that are out of reach that could simplify this? And of course, sanitation is fresh. So someone walks in, they feel that freshness that you've put towards your business. And you might even say, scent of the day or whatever you want to. But make sure you're putting this in front of them, that your facility matters to you. Some people get sick of their facility, hate this place. Well, it shows. It shows. And that happens when you kind of, you just don't want to put extra effort into it. Have facility standards. And of course, the last one, which is especially important right now, is safety. I'm the worst mask wearer here in the business, the worst one. And I look up, I get up, I feel like I'm being strangled. I go to my office, close the door, and I take it off immediately. So then, of course, I have to get up and go downstairs. Do I remember my mask? No. So I need the staff to say, hey,
That's unacceptable.
I know it is unacceptable, and I have the staff tell me. I don't do it on purpose. I'm not trying not to have my mask on. It's just help me be better at that. And you know what? They're great at it. Taking the temperatures. Still take mine every day when I come in. We're using hand sanitizer all the time. We spray a sanitation fog here every Wednesday night. But you're protecting for safety. But remember, we found time to be committed to the facility when we had to. Now, let's say the curve is starting to change. please tell me you're not going to go back and not be committed to safety. Maybe not at this level. Make sure you found time to do it right. Make sure you continue to keep that standard in place. Right? What else are we thinking about? Any questions for us, sir? None. It's good to be back.
It is
Someone
good to be
said,
back.
good to see you, and I said, good to be seen. It's good to be seen.
There's a couple of books that are out right now that I just wanted to make mention. One is called Love is Just Damn Good Business.
It is.
And it's by Steve Farber. He's a leadership expert.
I haven't read this.
I've followed him for years. He's a great guy. And I think you'd enjoy the book.
This is my new bracelet, by the way.
That's a nice bracelet.
Yeah, I wear it.
And if you wore it all the time, you'd always have your mask. Okay, so the other book that's out there, Patrick Lencioni, has an excellent podcast as well, but his book is called The Motive. And it's kind of like if you've been part of all of the Discover Your Why. It's kind of like discovering the why for your business is the motive. So I would recommend both of those books right now. They can be gotten on audible.com, or you can get your hard copy of the book if you're still one that likes that.
Are we good, guys?
I think we're good.
We had a good session today. I'm glad to be back in the teacher's seat with Steve, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.